peace mediation always needs patience. And of course, when you have a 28-point plan, which is put out as a first draft, there's going to be work to be done. I think the plan has 3 levels. Number one is Ukraine. What happens to Ukraine? Land swaps, etc. Then level number 2 is Europe and European security, EU and NATO. And then level number 3 is the transatlantic partnership. So with these things, it takes time. That's why we have our national security advisors in Geneva today, speaking with Foreign Secretary Rubio, with Andrei Yermak and others. So, one day at a time.
Is there anything specific, though, you would like to address first?
No, I think, we work on this as a team. So that's why we had 11 countries from the Coalition of the Willing meeting here in Johannesburg yesterday, including Canada and Japan, who are strongly committed in finding a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. And we work on the text together, we negotiate together. And I don't want to lift up any specifics at this stage.
Do you believe this, though, was Europe being sidelined to a certain extent?
Well, I guess yes and no is the right answer. Yes, in the sense that we hadn't seen the document beforehand, but no, in the sense that now we're negotiating and discussing with our American friends and allies. So I'm not too concerned. I think quite often in these types of negotiations, you need patience. You need to be cool. You need to tone down the emotions, and I guess to a certain extent be a little bit more Finnish, and then you find a solution. You'll find the finishing line.
But you seem certain that this will not be the final agreement. Why are you so certain about that?
Well, we're here in the G20, right? And here a document was approved. The establishment of that document took months. So it's never the first draft that goes through. You have to do many different iterations. I think it doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or whether you're in the news business. When you deal with contracts, it takes time.
Does that mean potential discussions with President Trump? You're known to speak to him often. Have you spoken to him this weekend?
Well, now that you ask, 10 minutes ago, Prime Minister Meloni and myself spoke with President Trump.
And what was the progress of those discussions? It's quite early in the U.S.
The President of the United States wakes up very early and he works very hard. And he wanted to talk about the plan and the state of play.
Are there more discussions planned this week? You mentioned Rubio is in Europe right now.
Yeah, I think right now we hand it over to our national security advisors in Geneva and Rubio and the Ukrainian team, and we see what comes out by the end of this evening.
Okay, so it's unlikely then that this Thursday supposed deadline will see a final agreement.
Well, it's difficult. I don't want to sort of preempt that. You never know with these kinds of negotiations. But I think the key right now would be to get a ceasefire, and we'll see how things go.
Do you want to do it?
Yes, Mr. President, could you just tell us what did you tell President Trump during your phone conversation just a minute ago?
The direct answer is no.
Okay.
Finns don't kiss and tell. So, President Trump has many good relations with many leaders around the world, and those conversations are confidential. As I've always said, President Trump is a good listener. He asks a lot of questions, and then he draws his own conclusions.
Do you feel like he's ready to listen to what European partners are offering as amendments to this plan?
I think President Trump is the person who decides on what the parameters of the document will be at the end of the day. Nothing will pass without the green light coming from President Trump.
From your point of view, what are the red lines that are unacceptable for Europe and for Ukraine in this?
What we have done, as we always do with these types of documents, we look at pluses, minuses, and minuses and pluses. And if I were now to give you a red line, that would become your headline. So I'll refrain from that.
Would you be able to maybe elaborate more on your view of this plan in terms of how much is it progress, let's say, comparing to what we had after summit in Anchorage? Is it more sort of, how significant is it a step forward?
Well, let me phrase it in the sense that after Alaska, there was no document. And after Alaska, we, the European leaders, convened with President Zelensky in the White House after the weekend in Alaska and decided to start working on security guarantees. That was an advance. Then, after the phone conversation President Trump had with President Putin, I think 3 weeks ago, and then he met President Zelensky the next day, what we felt came out of that was ceasefire at the line of contact. So we worked on that. And now for the first time we have a document. I mean, of course, in diplomacy we've all put down different plans and ideas about what could be done. But this is the first time we see a comprehensive document on the table.
What do you think, how credible is the US threat to halt intelligence and weapons supplies to Ukraine if it refuses the peace deal?
Well, again, you have to understand that President Zelensky is under tremendous pressure right now. I as a Finn understand that. We have a 1,340 kilometer border with Russia, and you only need to read something on the Winter War and the War of Continuation to understand the pressure under which our leadership at the time was. So we just have to take it day by day, and we look at some ultimatums. But of course, Ukraine right now has the most modern army in the world. It's been able to deny the strategic aim of Putin for almost 4 years. When the war began, it was a traditional, conventional war in trenches. It was with tanks. Suddenly we moved to drones. Intelligence is obviously a big part of it, but Ukraine already has, with satellites, quite good intelligence. So we're all working with the Ukrainians, including the Americans. But it is clear that without American support, the situation would be much more difficult. That is why Europeans, for instance, right now are buying American weapons, because they are so sophisticated and that they are useful on the battlefield in Ukraine.
So how confident are you that in case the US walks away in the future from the conflict in Ukraine, that Europe and Ukraine will be able to defend?
I don't look at hypotheticals like that. In diplomacy, you have to work with a world that exists, not a world that you wish would exist, or not with a world of conditionalities or assumptions about what's going to happen in the future. We go over one hurdle after another. I think it's in the strategic interests of the United States to continue to support Ukraine, because Ukraine is fighting for the values that we in Europe and the United States stand for, because Ukraine is showing that in the face of an aggressor, they can actually defend themselves. So it is in the vested interest of Europe and the United States that Ukraine does not lose this war.
After your call today with President Trump, did you agree on having another call maybe in coming days?
Well, the thing is, when we speak among leaders, nowadays it's not anymore long protocol and lines. You quite spontaneously call each other. This call this morning was rather spontaneous. So, I'm sure we'll stay in touch in the coming days, but depends a little bit how we coordinate things with the Europeans. It was just a good opportunity for Prime Minister Meloni and myself to speak with the President this morning.
What are your expectations of the talks in Switzerland?
I hope that we advance. I hope we understand each other better. I hope we find some landing zones among the Americans, the Europeans, and the Ukrainians. So I'm carefully optimistic but realistic. So let's see what happens.
And is there a plan to have a coalition of the willing meeting later this week? And when?
So basically tomorrow there will be, it's my understanding, an informal European Council in Angola, so European leaders, because they have the EU-Africa Summit. And then something might happen on Tuesday with the coalition of the willing, but it's too early to say.